Hi, Jeff. Yeah, look, I've had a look at your what's this? Your marks and your auditing study guide. I'm gonna start with auditing and FRK. Auditing in this video, then FRK in the next, just so that I keep them short, and then also so that you can always have reference to them. Yeah, that's that. Look, I've got good news and good news, right? So there's no bad news. The good news is that year tests count 70% of your year mark. Year test one counts 20%, year test two counts 25%, and year test three counts 25% of your year mark. So there's still a good 50% of your year mark in terms of year tests that is still outstanding. In terms of CEVs, they combine all of them together, and then they together count for 20% of your year mark. So already that's you've already written once two CEVs, so that's 66% of the marks gone. That's 8% left, so 12 out of 20 is gone. Now you're left with I hope my math's correct, yeah, but yeah, somewhere around there, about 7%, 7 to 14, 13% gone, so about 7% left. So if you add that, that's still 57% of your year mark left. Then the other is you've got tests, assignments, class attendance, that sort of thing. That counts 10% of your year mark, which means that you still have what's that? What was I on? 50 plus 7, that's 57. You still have 67% of your year mark left. So there's still a good part of the year remaining. Don't ever despair. In fact, when I was in my honors, one of the best advices I got from one of my friends was that the way you pass honors, and I know it's different for third year because you still have to qualify for your honors year, and that requires, I think, an average of 55 or an average of 60, but with your subjects getting 55 for each of them. And I can guarantee you that with auditing and FRK, you're still very much well on track to get your 55%. I'm assuming FBS and tax, you're not as worried about them at the moment, but trust me, there's still more than enough marks available for you to get that 55 and above. In fact, what I calculated was that you can still achieve an auditing mark, a final mark of 62%. And that is even by doing simple things, not trying to aim for 100% or 75% or 80% or what have you. And I think they would have taught you this in your course. Take the easy marks. Honestly, just take the easy marks. And I'm going to go through it with you now and show you where the easy marks are, and then just show you how to approach auditing. And then we can have a conversation over the weekend or in the next coming week. But I can almost guarantee you now, there's no need to panic whatsoever. In fact, if the more you panic, the more you're gonna be losing marks, right? So I'm just gonna go through your study guide that you provided me, and then I'm gonna show you where essentially you're gonna navigate and get those marks. There we go. There's the study guide for economics. So you can see us just going through it, the weekly breakdowns, all of that. I think, yeah, now we're well into the year, so you'd be comfortable with that. I see the textbooks that you're using is Auditing Fundamentals and Auditing Notes. I think just to say, for example, with the Auditing Notes and the textbook that you've been given, I think in my year, there used to be what we call graded questions. Yes, it's this one here, graded questions on auditing. All of your marks are sitting in there. I think at some point my auditing mark was 70%, 75%. And if you want to know what I did right, all I did was I would take the topic that I'm going to be studying, and you'll see when I go back to the top, and I will look at the questions in auditing, graded questions for auditing, and then I would start with question one. What question one does is it gives you the basics and it shows you what it is that they're asking you. Then question two gets a bit more complex, but it builds on question one. Question three gets a bit more complex and builds on question one. I think by the time you get to question four and question five, you are now looking at year test and exam type questions, which are building on question three, two, and one. And that's what I loved about graded questions. I cannot recommend it enough. This is absolutely the best book to use for you to pass auditing. And it's not the same for all the other subjects. Auditing is the only one that is unique in having graded questions as a recommended book, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. In fact, even if I stop the recording here and you go and you do graded questions, I promise you now for your next test on the 21st of June, I think year test two, you'll get 70% without a shadow of a doubt. If you just do question one, question two, question three, question four, and then you mark them well. And you will see when you do it. Question one is like a 10, 20-minute question. Question two is like a 20, 30-minute question. Question three is a 30, 40-minute question. And then question four is a comprehensive, like 1 hour question. Please, please, please do not do this, right? That's graded questions and that's your marks. At this point, I've already given you enough to get 70% without me even speaking further. But I'm gonna go to the top of your study guide and I'm just going to show you or talk you through some of the topics that we're dealing with, or at least that you have dealt with up to this point. I cannot emphasize it enough. Even if it means you must go back to see if you want topics and do those topics in graded question. Then see year test one topics, do them in graded questions, and then CV2 topics, do them in graded questions. Then the year test two topics, do them in graded questions. If you do that, you will pass year test two with distinction. Having said that, let me now go back up top to what you will be writing on year test two. So as you can see here, year test two will be on the 21st of June and we'll be covering all of the following, right? And I'm just gonna talk you through to it. I've done my auditing articles, I've completed my auditing articles. So trust me, I know exactly what I'm talking about in this regard. So when it comes to the regulatory environment, I think that's where you would have done the Companies Act, that's where you would have done King, and that's where you would have done, what do you call this? Yeah, those two, I think CPC, the Code of Professional Conduct, those books, right? There's no easy way to study those. Those you just have to do long questions. And when you're doing your long questions, the important thing to do, right, for the regulatory framework, all of them, this is how literally how they mark them. One, you put down the issue. You get a mark just for putting down the issue. Two, you discuss in the scenario what made you identify that issue. So you will say, for example, Companies Act, let's say take Section 46. You will say in this regard, Section 46 is relevant, which speaks about financial assistance to directors of the company. That gives you a mark, tick. Then you will say, it is evident in the case study that Mr. X is asking for financial assistance in the form of a loan to the value of whatever, 4 million. That gives you a mark. And then number three is where you apply. Where you apply is where you will then say, because you've identified the issue and you've identified how it comes up in the scenario, you will go to the Companies Act. And I think your tests are open book tests at this point. And you will look at Section 46 and it will have 3 or 4 requirements. And normally those requirements are something like the decision must be made at a board meeting at AGM level, right? And then it will say that the company or the board of directors must make sure that loan covenants, which is the solvency and liquidity requirements of the company, will be met before they can give the loan. Then the third point will be it will be the fact that the company must make sure, so especially these loan covenants, there's two marks, one for saying before the loan is given, and one for saying the liquidity and solvency ratio will be met after the loan is given. And then the last one, I think, is the last requirement is Mr. X must not participate in the decision, right? And then you will apply it. Having stated the Companies Act requirements or the King requirements, you will then say that the company, the board of directors, seem to have done this as seen in the minutes presented. And then you're done. That's your regulatory type questions. It's the same thing as the CPC. The CPC will identify the issue, that this is an ethical issue, and this is ethical issue number 92 or number 113 or number 121 in the CPC book, which is whatever, marketing of professional services or audit fees that are being charged. Those are straightforward and they're very easy to score marks on when it comes to answering questions, because you just state the issue, mark. You state how you identified it inside the inside the case study, mark, and then you say, what does the guidance say and how did you apply it? And then that's a third mark. So when you see this, you jump for joy and you take your marks and you run with it. I want to move on to the more difficult stuff, as you may think they're difficult, right? Now, even though I'm going all the way back to stuff that were tested in CEV1, year test 1, and CEV2, right? I still want you to study them like this. The way you're going to study the things that were tested in CEV1, year test 1, and CEV2 is you're going to peruse your script, right? Because year test 2 is already around the corner. In the perusal of your script, you're going to identify what is it that you didn't get right. So if you got 57% for CV1, you're going to look, where's the other 43%? And then you're clearly going to see that, oh, actually, that covered planning, or that covered audit strategy, or that covered materiality. And then you are going to go to your graded questions and you're just going to do the first 1 to 3 questions, not 4. Please don't do 4. And the reason I'm not making you do 4 now is because you've already been tested on it. So they're not going to focus so much on it, but it's a build up and you will see how it builds up, right? So you're going to peruse CV1, you're going to peruse year test 1, you're going to peruse year test 2, you are going to identify where you didn't get the marks, you're going to take the memo and you're going to highlight what those sections are, you're going to check what was the correct answer and the format, and then you're done with the topics that were covered up to CEV2. Now for year test 2, what you're going to do is you're going to take these topics. So risk of material misstatement at overall F's level, it's going to be overall response, and I can even give you those responses now, but you'll see I'm going to talk you through it. And then it's going to be risk of material misstatement at assertion level and response at risk assessment level, at assertion level. You're going to take these topics and you're going to do graded questions. Question 1, all the way up until you blue in the face. But at a bare minimum, question 1 to 5, at a bare minimum. So I will repeat, Number one is you will peruse the tests that you've written. Number two, after you've perused and seen what your mistakes are, you will then do graded questions 1 to 3 on the things that were covered in CV 1 to 2, right? And then number 3, for year test 2, you'll even feel your confidence rise up by this point. For year test 2, you are then going to sit down, take graded questions, and you are going to do questions 1 to 5. After you've done questions 1 to 5 on risk assessment at financial statement level, response, assertion level, and response, you're going to give me a call and you're going to say, Sechi, I'm done. That is just so that I can be comfortable, that I know that you've got your marks in the bag and you have passed auditing and you have passed it very well, because trust me, you're going to do very well following this approach. I cannot lie to you and I cannot overemphasize to you how important it is to do that up to this point. Okay? That is what you're gonna do. I'm gonna stop the recording and then I'm gonna make a separate recording where I go into what is audit planning, strategy, all the things that you've covered and what you're supposed to learn. This is so that after you have gone through all of these things, you come back to the second video, and then this second video is going to serve as your revision, just to make sure that you're on the same page as I am. So I'm gonna stop the recording now.